Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Auerbach, and I'm the Deputy Chief Animal Services Officer here at Austin Animal Center. And I'm excited to talk to you today about an upcoming apprenticeship opportunity that will be happening this spring here in Austin, Texas, in America's largest no-kill city. This apprenticeship is specifically about starting an adult dog foster program. And it's about foster-based solutions for medium and large adult shelter dogs. Although what you'll learn here can be applied to any animal, any adult pet, cat or dog. So the first thing that we'll be talking about is why foster for adult dogs? Well, there's a lot of reasons. And traditionally, foster programs have targeted neonatal animals such as puppies and kittens, sick animals, animals with special medical needs. But foster programs haven't traditionally targeted adult dogs who are just waiting a long time to be adopted in the shelter. So why is foster so important for adult dogs? Well, it can shorten the length of stay, and it can reduce those stress-related behaviors that prevent or slow down adoptions. Those of us who work in shelters all know that the longer a dog sits in a shelter, the less likely it becomes that it can maintain the behavior that will help it get it at home. So we see lots of stress-related behaviors just from dogs living in a kennel. It can increase live outcomes. In most shelters still in the United States, dogs are still dying because they come into the shelter without behavioral problems, but over time, their behavior declines, and sometimes they're euthanized for those behaviors that are simply related to confinement. In many shelters, dogs sit in their kennels for 23 hours a day or more. Another benefit of sending adult dogs to foster is that you make better matches between dogs and adopters. So we help learn more about the dogs so that we're able to find the best matches for them, and that keeps them in homes. Fostering, even if it's just for an hour, can improve the emotional health of shelter dogs, and it's also important for increasing capacity. During the summer months, many shelters are at capacity, and foster can provide a life-saving solution. Here in Austin, about half our capacity is in foster. So in our busy summer months, we'll have 700 animals in the shelter and another 700 in foster. And that allows us to literally double the number of animals we're able to serve during those busiest times. So what will you learn if you come for this apprenticeship? Well, you'll learn how to start and run an adult dog foster program. We'll take you from the very beginning, which is where I started doing this work back in Fairfax, Virginia, about 4.5 years ago. We'll show you how to take the very first steps to start and run an adult dog foster program. You'll learn how to create appropriate and safe training materials, a foster contract, a foster manual, and other documents that are tailored to an adult dog foster program. Much of the materials you probably already had for your program will help you develop these materials. You'll learn how to save money and increase your capacity. Foster is an inexpensive solution to housing animals, and housing a dog in a shelter can cost anywhere from $25 to $50 a day or more, and foster presents a free or low-cost alternative to that in-shelter housing. You'll also learn how to remove some of the most common barriers that prevent adult dogs from going to foster, and this is one of the changes we had to make. We had to actually let the dogs out of the shelter, and so one of our rules is that it's no harder to foster than it is to adopt, and so we send as many dogs home to foster as we can. And finally, you'll learn how to implement safety protocol to introduce foster dogs to own pets. That's a big concern for a lot of people that have dogs at home. They want to bring home a foster dog, but they want to do it safely, and so we'll teach you how to do that. So what are these specific programs you'll learn? Because an adult dog foster program has many components, and what we do is we teach you everything from 1-hour fostering all the way to long-stay foster through adoption. So now I'm going to talk just briefly about a few of the programs we'll cover. The first one is the Power Hour and Field Trip Fostering. This is something that we did extensively in my previous shelter in Fairfax County, Virginia. We started sending dogs out for hikes for 1-hour field trips, and we allowed our volunteers, fosters, and staff to take dogs out for any break from the kennel. And one of our mottos is an hour outside the shelter can teach you more about a dog than 2 weeks in the shelter. So this is a really valuable way to gain more information about the dogs, get great pictures, and get dogs adopted. And here's a picture of one of our field trip fosters out having a blast. Another program you'll learn about is overnight and weekend fostering. Some shelters are closed 1 or 2 days a week, and so one easy way to get dogs out without hurting their chances of getting adopted is to send them home for overnights and weekends with families, and that helps you get valuable information about the dogs, but it also gives them a much-needed kennel break so they can come back on that day you open, and they're refreshed, they're calm, and they're ready to meet their new potential adopter. So we'll tell you how to start getting dogs out for overnight and weekends. And this is a really important one for many people. Those longest stay dogs are the ones that truly break our hearts. They're the ones that sit in our shelters for months, even up to a year or more, waiting for homes. And time again, for whatever reason, these hidden gems get passed by. We'll show you how to send these dogs to foster to get them adopted faster. We have started and run now at 2 shelters adoption-focused foster programs for long-stay dogs. And we get long-stay dogs into foster. They only stay there for about a week to a month, and that's enough to get them adopted. So we'll show you how to start sending your long-stay dogs to foster to get them adopted and through your system more quickly. That's a picture of T-Bone, the bigger dog in the back, and he was in our shelter for about a year, had experienced severe behavioral decline. He went into a foster home, and there he is just a couple of months later within his adoptive home with his new best friend. And we'll also show you how to send dogs safely and effectively to foster who are experiencing declining behavior in the shelter. This is a huge issue, big problem. Even under the best circumstances, confinement leads to stress-related behaviors that can prevent adoptions. That's me with one of our long-stay dogs, Sox. Sox was a wonderful dog whose behavior just started going downhill, and she started doing some of the kennel stress behaviors, becoming very jumpy, mouthy, and hard to handle and leash reactive. And these were all shelter-based behaviors. And so by sending her to a foster, we were able to get her out of the shelter, get her some much-needed attention, and find her a home. And another way that we use foster that we'll show you how to do if you come to this apprenticeship is we use it in emergency situations. Here in Austin, we experience flooding, fires, and other natural disasters, and we also experience seasonal space crises. During that time, we reach out to the community for help. And what we do is we tell people that we are anywhere from 20 to 30 dogs over capacity, and we ask for emergency fosters. And time again, the community steps up and helps. We process those fosters on the very same day. Those dogs go home the same day with brand new foster families, and we've sent up to 50 dogs to foster in a 24-hour period. In a traditional shelter, those dogs probably all would have been killed, and the shelter would have started euthanizing for space. And here we do things differently. We look for foster, and we'll show you how to do that too. Okay, so what we'll cover over the 3-day visit, very briefly. On day 1, you'll tour the shelter. You'll have an introduction to kennel and shelter enrichment, and a classroom introduction to fostering medium and large adult dogs. You'll also do a self-assessment of what's happening in your shelter now, or organization now. So you'll learn to identify your existing situation and set some goals. And you'll look at your organization's barriers to foster and how you might remove some of those. You'll also do a meet and greet with our foster-based specialty groups. Here in Austin, we have about 4 different specialty groups that target different populations of dogs. So we have one group called the Classic Canines that looks for foster for our senior pets. And we have another group called Hard-Luck Hounds that seeks foster for our longest stay dogs. And you'll also have a lesson in off-site dog walking and field trip fostering and power hours. We'll show you how to get those foster dogs out of the shelter for short trips while maintaining safety and making sure that pets and people both stay safe in the community. On day 2, we'll show you how we do playgroup assessments and how we identify dogs for foster. Here in Austin, playgroups form the foundation for how we pick dogs for foster. And so we use playgroups to evaluate dogs with others in a more real-life situation. You'll also be part of a classroom introduction to safety basics, and you'll have hands-on practice in doing meet and greets between dogs. In the work session that day, we'll help you create your own organization's foster contract and manual so you can take that home with you. And we'll show you how to set up safe spaces for foster dogs so that you can set your fosters up for success when they take dogs home. We'll talk about weekend and overnight fostering, and we'll talk about how we engage the community in times when we really need their help to foster, and how we let dogs go to foster during those situations on the same day. And finally, you'll have, on day 2, you'll have a meet and greet with the leadership of Austin Pets Alive and Austin Animal Center. On the final day of the apprenticeship, you'll learn how we train foster families and what all that goes into that. And we'll talk about foster failures and returns and why we think both of those are actually a good thing for your program. We'll tell you about our Adoption Ambassadors program and why our foster programs are all adoption focused. The last thing that we want to do is send a dog to foster and have it stay there for months and months. We want those dogs to go to foster to get adopted. We'll tell you how we do marketing and media for foster dogs and how that helps shorten length of stay, and why tracking data is so important to everything you do when it comes to foster. We'll talk about some bigger picture issues, and including how foster, we envision a day when foster is at the heart of what we do, and shelters function more as triage centers, trying to get the majority of dogs out to foster homes faster to get them adopted. At the end of my time in Fairfax County, Virginia, we sent about 40% of our dogs to foster in some form or another, and that number should have been even higher. We envision foster as the solution for most dogs in our care, if not all. And so for this last day, we'll look again at the goals you set for your organization and give you some goals when you go back. And we'll show you the basics of how to get that program started the day you return back to your organization. We assert and we have shown that foster is the easiest, least expensive, and safest way to save more adult dogs, and that we as communities should be considering foster as a key solution to saving more of those adult dogs in our care, is shortening the length of time they're spending in shelters. Shelters are not adequate places to house animals long term. And while foster programs traditionally haven't focused on healthy adult animals, we will show you over this 3 period why they should absolutely be targeting these populations that need our help so much and can benefit almost more than any population from being in a home. We hope you consider attending this apprenticeship, and we'd love to see you here in Austin to learn how you in your community and your shelter can use foster as a key solution to save more lives of medium and large adult dogs.